Most High put together. We gon' see. In times. Serpents lurking, watchers watching, y'all sure I'll stay on point. They lurking. We under the covenant, we ain't got no other choice. Gird your loins up, armor up, cause it's time for war. We the generation that's gon' get on one accord. Serpents lurking, watchers watching, y'all sure I'll stay on point. We under the covenant, we ain't got no other choice. Gird your loins up, armor up, cause it's time for war.
Margaret Sanger, the women's rights activist and founder of Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in America, is a hero to the modern left. Hillary Clinton told supporters in 2009 that she was in awe of Sanger. In 2014, Barack Obama, in an address to Planned Parenthood, praised Sanger's legacy as the core principle that has guided everything all of you do.
The term eugenics is basically a set of beliefs and practices that aim to improve the genetic quality of a human population. Historically, by excluding people and groups judged to be inferior and promoting those judged to be superior. There have been various applications of eugenics, perhaps the most famous being the Germans before and during World War II, which was condemned by the Nuremberg war crimes trials. But the Germans did not invent eugenics. In fact, they were inspired by the founder of the taxpayer-funded Planned Parenthood. The truth behind the genesis of that organization and its founder are much darker than most Americans realize. Who was the real Margaret Sanger? Why was she heralded by the Third Reich as the greatest socialist in America? Why do modern Democrats who claim to support the African American population justify presenting her as a cultural icon? Margaret Sanger was born on September 14, 1879 in Corning, New York. She is an icon to left-wing groups due to her founding of Planned Parenthood in October 1916 with her sister Ethel Byrne and Fanny Amendel, which was the first birth control clinic in Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. 9 days later, the police raided the clinic and arrested all the people involved for promoting birth control, which was illegal. Sanger refused to pay the fine and spent 30 days in jail. She then traveled the country preaching her concepts. Sanger then founded the American Birth Control League in 1921. Sanger also endorsed the 1927 decision Buck v. Bell, in which the Supreme Court ruled that states could forcibly sterilize people deemed unfit without their consent and sometimes without their knowledge. This American law would be the major defense at Nuremberg for the Nazi defendants who were doctors practicing Sanger's methods, and many would be found not guilty as a result of this defense. In 1939, Sanger began what was called the Negro Project, alongside black leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois, Mary McLeod Bethune, and Reverend Adam Clayton Powell. This was the plan to have black doctors performing on black patients, to perpetuate the sterilization of blacks who were deemed inferior, as many black patients were suspicious of white doctors.
During this time in the 1920s, which was the progressive era, there was this real tangible fear. All of the best writers were writing about this fear that they were going to lose the good white Nordic race to the sudden flow of immigration that was coming from Eastern Europe, and of course to the black Americans who were now breeding. So there was this fear that we have to protect the purebreds. And they actually closed the borders. They stopped immigration for a while, and all of these books said, how else are we going to do it? We need to make sure people are not breeding bad. And Margaret Sanger comes around and we start talking about abortion and eugenics. And she, considered the black race to be unfit and to be beneath.
That's right.
But she said, if I go out and say that, that's not going to work. And she literally wrote in a letter to Dr. Clarence Gamble that they didn't want it to get out, that they wanted to exterminate the black race.
Right.
But if they went through the churches, because black people had such faith in their pastors and such belief in their pastors, if they could just get out the message, and if any of them get out of control, the pastors will quiet them down. She literally wrote this.
Is that Sanger only opposed abortions if that meant not producing the best, healthiest, most intelligent from Caucasian couples. For blacks, Jews, and brown-skinned people, as well as low IQ white people and those with birth defects, they were not to be allowed. This was what the Nazis adopted. Ironically, in 1966, Planned Parenthood began issuing its Margaret Sanger Awards annually to honor individuals of distinction in recognition of excellence and leadership in furthering reproductive health and reproductive rights.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be back in Houston with so many friends and to have an opportunity to participate in the Planned Parenthood annual meeting. I have to tell you that it was a great privilege when I was told that I would receive this award. I admire Margaret Sanger enormously. Her courage, her tenacity, her vision. Another of my great friends, Ellen Chesler, is here, who wrote a magnificent biography of Margaret Sanger called Woman of Valor. And when I think about what she did all those years ago in Brooklyn, taking on archetypes, taking on attitudes and accusations flowing from all directions, I am really in awe of her. And there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from her life and from the cause she launched and fought for and sacrificed so greatly.
In his book, Origin of Species, Charles Darwin said that he considered the black races to be closer to the gorilla than white races, confirmed by this racist motion graphic. Watch as the primitive gorilla evolves into a modern white guy, leaving African Americans back with the gorillas. Darwinian evolution is bogus science. It can't be observed or tested, and when you've got no proof for an unscientific belief, you resort to Photoshop.
Margaret Sanger was one of the few women to be given an honorific title and inducted into the Ku Klux Klan, and exalted by none other than Adolf Hitler and Dr. Joseph Goebbels. She was friends with the racist Democratic President Woodrow Wilson, Democratic fundraiser, and automobile maker Henry Ford, who was also friends with Adolf Hitler and a rabid anti-Semite and hater of black Americans. Margaret Sanger's rabid racism, anti-Semitism, and violent suggestions on eliminating all non-whites from American society endeared her to the eugenics crowd. She wanted an all-white, healthy, intelligent society built upon the concept of racial eradication years before Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party were even a thought. In 1934, the Nazi Party adopted her radical positions, with Goebbels saying, "Margaret Sanger is the best National Socialist in America."
Planned Parenthood hails founder Margaret Sanger as a champion of civil rights. But one thing they don't talk about is the racism behind her fight to legalize abortion. A group of African American leaders want to focus attention on her ideology and how it affected black birth rates. Abigail Robertson has more on this story.
Margaret Sanger strived for a society that limited births to only those she deemed fit to have children.
Well, I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born. That, to me, is the greatest sin.
Many pro-choice advocates see her as a hero, but critics call her a racist eugenics promoter who targeted black communities with her Planned Parenthood clinics.
Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, once said, colored people are like weeds, they need to be exterminated.
People don't understand that 79% of Planned Parenthood clinics are located in minority communities, and that minority communities shoulder a disproportionate amount of abortion.
Dr. King says while African Americans make up only 13% of the U.S. population, over 30% of aborted babies are from black mothers.
Under the veil of secrecy and deception, 60+ million babies have not been born because they were aborted legally since '73. 1/3 of that population belong to the African American community.
So you just came from Paris Fashion Week, you just landed, and you have a lanyard still on from it, and there's a photograph on it. What is that?
It's a photograph of a baby's ultrasound.
Why is that? And that you designed that?
Yes.
Why? What does that mean?
It just represents life. I'm pro-life.
Boy, so you wear it on a badge. What kind of response do you get? And good, amen, I agree.
I don't care about people's responses. I care about the fact that there's more black babies being aborted than born in New York City at this point. That 50% of black death in America is abortion.
For this week's Speak Out segment, we look at some billboard backlash. This billboard was recently put up in Dallas, Texas by a pro-abortion group, the Afia Center. It says, "Black women take care of their families by taking care of themselves. Abortion is self-care. Hashtag trust black women." Let's address the first lie off the bat. Abortion, the destruction of human life, is not self-care. But what's especially alarming is this billboard is blatantly targeting black women for abortion. In 2014, 36% of all U.S. abortions were performed on black women, who make up just 13% of the female population. And if we look specifically at New York City, some statistics show more black babies are aborted than born alive. This demonstrates the toll abortion disproportionately places on the black community. The hashtag on this Texas billboard was "Trust Black Women." The billboard was a response to this. Another Texas billboard from the National Black Pro-Life Coalition, which says, "Abortion is not health care. It hurts women and murders their babies." Abortion advocates say that message shames women, but it doesn't shame women. It simply speaks the truth about what abortion truly does.
Working in the slums of New York in the early 1900s, Margaret Sanger witnessed abject poverty. Her solution was to eliminate people rather than the problems they face. Let's look at what she wrote about large families.
The most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it.
Margaret Sanger from Woman and the New Race, 1920.
Margaret Sanger was a firm believer in the false science of eugenics, a twisted ideology that said only certain people from certain ethnic, political, or economic backgrounds should be allowed to have children. She wanted the government to decide who can and can't have children.
No woman shall have the legal right to bear a child, and no man shall have the right to become a father without a permit. Margaret Sanger, from America Needs a Code for Babies, published in 1934.
For Margaret Sanger, birth control and sterilization were only the beginning of her plan to eliminate people that she decided were unworthy of life.
While I personally believe in the sterilization of the feeble-minded, the insane, and the syphilitic, I have not been able to discover that these measures are more than superficial deterrents when applied to the constantly growing stream of the unfit. Margaret Sanger, Birth Control and Racial Betterment, The Birth Control Review, February 1919.
In 1939, Margaret Sanger began her campaign to target the black population specifically. First, it was birth control. Now, it's abortion. In fact, more black babies are aborted in this city than are born alive.
Truth number 2, abortion is murder. I ask myself all the time, why is it, doesn't it seem to you that progressive policies always lead to regressive results in the black community? It's amazing, isn't it? Abortion, so progressive. They want to move that forward. We need abortion. We have black women representing 6 to 7% of the population, and yet we account for almost 40% of all of the abortions that are performed in this country. We have a sick and twisted Governor Andrew Cuomo celebrating that you can rip fetuses, you can rip infants and babies from their mother's womb at 9 months. 9 months. It's absolutely sickening what we're talking about here. And who is that going to impact the most? In New York City, for those of you that don't know, more black babies are aborted than born live. A hard-hitting truth is that the most unsafe place for a black child is not on the streets, it's not when they see a police officer, it's in their mother's womb. More than half of the black population would be double today if it wasn't for abortion. We've lost 18 million black babies since 1973. How's that for a progressive policy? Is that what they're celebrating?
We don't supposed to kill nothing. Read this.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 13. Bring it out. Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not do what?
Kill.
So if you go to an abortion clinic and you get the baby sucked out of you, is that killing? Is that murder?
They chop them up first.
Yeah, first they gotta cut the arm. They go in there, they clip the arms off, clip the other arms off, clip the legs off, then suck the rest of the body out. That is brutality murder, sis.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 18 and verse 21. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire of Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord.
Number one leading cause of death, the highest leading cause of death on the entire planet is abortion. So-called Afro-Americans or so-called African-Americans, we all make up the majority of the abortions in the United States of America. Specifically, so-called Afro-Americans, specifically the Afro-American or so-called African-American or Black woman. Number one, abortion. There are about 1,200 abortions that happen a day in America because we are God's chosen people. The Bible is about us, you understand? And it has always been the agenda of the empires to wipe out our future generations, specifically the males. But in this captivity, our oppressor just wants all of the babies gone. You understand? So this is what it says here. We're going to get into abortion in the Bible. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12 and verse 4. Whom thou hatest, the Lord hatest. There's someone that the Lord was very strongly against for doing most odious. Odious is hate-filled. The word odiar is to hate in Spanish. You understand? The most odious works of witchcraft and wicked sacrifices. What is the witchcraft and wicked sacrifices that it's talking about? This is witchcraft. The idea that you can do these things and the Lord be on your side. You are sacrificing so that you can gain something, so that you don't have to deal with a problem or something can be taken away. You are going to sacrifice it for a God, for something. What is these sacrifices that the Lord is against, that he said that he was strongly against? That was very odious and loathsome to the Most High. Also, those merciless murderers of children. What did the Lord say? Merciless murderers of children. Who is murdering children? Who is taking the children's lives without mercy? That the Lord calls a merciless murderer of children. This is talking about abortion. You understand? Taking the lives of children, taking the lives of babies, killing babies is what this is talking about. No place on the planet Earth takes more the lives of more babies than the United States of America. And here in America, the chief babies that are losing their lives, the lives are being taken, are so-called Black. This is what the Lord is talking about here. This is abortion in the Bible. God said, in those merciless murderers of children and devourers of man's flesh, and devourers of man's flesh, and feast, the feast of blood. You understand? These are our babies, children. These are people. You understand? Inside of a mother, inside of a womb, they are still alive. If they weren't alive, you wouldn't have to kill them. You wouldn't have to pay money for a procedure for the doctor to stop them from being alive, which is what living things do. They move, they breathe, they grow. If they say life was found on Mars, they'll find one drop, one molecule of life, and they'll say, we found life on Mars. If they find water cells on Mars, they'll say it was alive. But if you are a Black baby, then you are not alive, and it's okay to put up hundreds of dollars, and the doctor will do a procedure to end your life. With the priests, with their priests out of the midst of their idolatrous crew. If not for these religious leaders in the Christian church saying that God loves everybody no matter what, God is on your side no matter what, instead of saying what the Bible says, that God loathes, you understand, thou hatest for doing witchcraft and wickedness by killing these babies, killing our Black babies, our children, our future generations, our babies. God assigns life. You don't have permission to take anybody's life, a baby, child, embryo, fetus, adult at all. God did not give you that permission. Your idolatrous crew, your oppressor that the Christian church tells you to love, to vote and salute the flag and pray to that white image of Jesus Christ, that is what makes you think you have the right to abort your baby.
He gon' send his hand. Destruction gotta come, that's how he get us out this lane. The devil working hard, trying to get us out his plane. His sheep hear his voice, so he can't get us out his hand. We gon' trust the son of man, blow your wings, Father. Your kingdom coming, we just trying to make it in, Father. Rather we